Welcome back to Mountain Connections. Right now, we are joined by Malynda Hale. She is the host of We Need to Talk and creator of Black Voices Heard. Looking forward to speaking with her, finding about her background, and much, much more. Malynda, thanks for joining us.
Morris, thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and specifically on these really big, really important projects that you're doing right now.
Yeah, of course. So by nature, I am a singer-songwriter. That has been my bread and butter for the last decade and how I've made my living. And as my platform grew with music, I wanted to make a difference with all of the conversations that are happening in the country just surrounding social justice. And I've always been sort of an activist at heart, but I wanted to really use my platform to continue conversations and help with education. So I started my podcast. It actually started as a live panel series at my church, bringing people together to have conversations, be able to ask questions in a very safe place. And then because podcasts became such a big thing, I created the podcast about 3 years ago. And I've had some incredible guests on that they share their personal stories, but also how there's an intersection with social justice, with religion, with politics and culture, and so on and so forth. So it's been really humbling to hear people's stories and be able to share them with a host of listeners. And with Black Voices Heard, I was inspired to create that just last year during the pandemic when everything kind of shut down. I wasn't performing, I wasn't doing anything. I just became a new mom as well. And I had a friend reach out to me and ask what he could do to kind of help with education and with kind of bridging the gap with the Black community. And I took some time and I thought, I think the main reason why there is so much discourse with race in this country is that people don't talk and people don't hear each other's stories. So I created the Black Voices Heard project in order for people to hear from Black Americans in a very different way, but hearing their own personal stories of what it's like growing up as a Black person in America. And the stories range from very positive and very uplifting stories to hearing some really difficult experiences that people have had.
Now, in regards to your podcast, not only have you had some really big names, important people, you also don't shy away from really tough topics. When you look back at the episodes that you've done up to this point, are there any that you're especially proud of or any that stand out in your mind or some that have been really popular amongst your listeners?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that even having, bigger names on the show, I think some of the ones that I take the most away from are people that have, small organizations or nonprofits that are doing really great work. I just had a recent episode with a woman named Mariana Angelique, who I've known for a while, but she started an organization called Rock Era, which stands for Regardless of Color. And it's helping arts programs in schools for kids, specifically in the inner city, and being able to give her a platform and have people learn about the great work that she's doing. That's something that brings me a lot of joy. So it's those type of episodes that really, really stand out for me. But then, of course, recently I was able to talk with Richard Marx, who was one of my favorite singer-songwriters, and just talk about the evolution of the music industry and where it is now. So, and even, talking a little bit about politics with him as well. So there's a really wide range of guests that I bring on the show because I think everybody does have a story, whether you're doing kind of grassroots work or whether you have made a big name for yourself. I love being able to have conversations with anybody about where they are in their life.
And with Black Voices Heard, this is a film photo project, as you mentioned, where you meet and highlight individuals, and they talk about experiences that they've had as Black individuals in this country. It's really moving and powerful what you've done.
Thank you so much. I've been pleasantly surprised how open and vulnerable people have been in sharing their experiences. And I think one of the most special moments for me was being able to really interview my parents and talk to them about experiences. Because even, growing up and hearing stories, there were the questions that I asked them in the interviews, some of the things I didn't even know that they had experienced. So that was really humbling, but also heartbreaking for me to hear some of the experiences they had when they were my age and even much younger.
And you're an actress, singer, songwriter, as you mentioned, but you're really passionate about different things with social justice, LGBTQ rights, with everything that's been happening with current events and social justice here across our country, as well as religion. What has made you decide to really combine your talents with these issues in particular?
I think, one, I just think that everybody does have a calling and a purpose in some way. And I was really struggling with how I wanted to use my voice just outside of music. And I think the pandemic, becoming a mom, just living in LA and being surrounded by a diverse community has really made me want to make my voice heard in a different way, but also use it to stand up for other marginalized groups. And, in terms of my faith, I go to a very, very progressive church that has a big emphasis on social justice and helping marginalized groups and making sure people feel loved and accepted and affirmed. And that's the household that I was raised in. And so I want to continue that just in the work that I do. And it's been very rewarding being able to create platforms and provide a space for people to know that their stories matter and who they are matters, and give people an opportunity to learn and be educated in a different way.
And Linda, do you have any advice for individuals who may be interested in taking their talents in a direction that you had and really fighting for beliefs that they have, especially in such a divisive time across our country?
Yeah, I get that, asked that question quite a bit. And I would say the first step is, if you don't know what to do, start by saying that. And people get confused when I say that, but when you're honest and vulnerable about the fact that you want to make a difference, you want to make a change, you want to start using your platform, but you don't know how, start by telling your audience, I want to do this, but I'm not sure how. People will be surprised by the response that you will get, because in that honesty, you will find a lot of people that also feel the same way. So start by just saying, I want to make a difference. I want to use my voice, but I don't know how. And then listen. The biggest thing I say to people is, you have to listen to other people's stories and listen to their experiences so that you know where you are needed. Because you don't want to, start throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks before you really know how to go out and make a difference. But listen to the people that are already doing the work and see where your voice can fit and where you can make a difference within the work that's already being done.
Malynda, what's next for you? What are you going to keep working on, and what are some future goals that you have?
Yeah, I'm gonna start working on some new music soon. It's been a while, and now that the world's opening back up again, specifically California is opening back up, getting back into live performance. So writing new music and releasing new music is definitely on my list and goal for this year. Expanding the podcast, I'm really, really blessed with the guests that I've had and the topics that I've been able to discuss. So I'm gonna keep growing that. And then, as you mentioned, Black Voices Heard is an ongoing project. So right now we're doing more in-studio interviews and in photo shoots and conversations, but the goal is to actually go out onto the street and just talk to people, catch them off guard, so to speak, and ask, specifically Black Americans, what has been your experience been like living in America? Share some stories with us. So that's a goal in the future as we're kind of continuing out of this pandemic.
And Malynda, where can we listen to your music, find your podcast, and watch Black Voices Heard and follow along with everything that you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So you can follow me on social media, just at Malynda Hale on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And my music is available on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you get music, YouTube, Malynda Hale. Just that's what my name is. There's nothing special to add to it, just Malynda Hale. And then the podcast, it's #We Need to Talk. And that's on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube as well. And then you can watch the Black Voices Heard project on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Black Voices Heard.
Malynda Hale, thank you so much for joining us today from LA. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. I admire everything that you're doing, how you're using your talents for good, and giving us great advice right here on Park City Television. We'll be back with more right after this.